Welcome everyone. This is Joby from Breathe to Heal. Today I've got my good friend Chris Edward with us. I've interviewed Chris before and we had an amazing chat about consciousness, spirituality, and I really recommend go and check that out. I'll put a link in below. It's a very in-depth conversation, probably a couple of years ago, just as everything started in the world. So yeah, I'm really excited about this interview. Chris is a very dear friend of mine. So guys, enjoy the show. This is Breathe to Heal. Okay, welcome Chris to today's podcast. Thank you for giving me your time. I know you're super busy. Your social medias have absolutely blown up in the last couple of months for all the work you're doing. And I just like every time me and Chris talk, we end up in deep conversations about how the universe works. And so we don't really know what's going to come up today. But when we normally get into a flow, we get into real valuable information. And we were talking the other day, I was like, we really need to record another podcast because we need to get this information out there because it can really help so many people. So Chris, thank you for coming back on and giving me your time, my beautiful friend.
It's always a pleasure, Joby. It's always so good to talk to you. And yeah, we never know what's going to come out. And this is what's so good about having these levels of conversation is that we get to reveal to each other truths. And I always feel better after having a conversation with you. I always feel like, wow. It's always like the next day or the next day I text you saying, hey, that was a good chat, or I really enjoyed just expansive experiences. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I know when we were talking the other day, we got into deep spirituality, consciousness, 5D, what's going on with the earth. So I'd like to cover that today for our people and really get your insights. I know you've studied a lot, and like when I say people, he's studied. I've never known anyone that studies Chris, and his knowledge is impeccable. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world at the moment. For those that don't know you, what you do, what have you studied, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. So in 2014, I began my journey of studying, and for some reason, I just have the ability to eat books very quickly. I read and digest books really quickly, and I went through a period of learning a lot intellectually, and then became a journey around about 2017. Became the journey of applying the knowledge that I'd learned, but application of the knowledge. So then I went through the law period, and then I went through the spiritual journey, and it's only in recent days, actually, Joby, that I realized that the spiritual journey in and of itself is just authenticity. And that all you ever really discover is more and more deeper parts of yourself that are more and more authentic. You actually become the person, the being that you already were in the first place. So the paradox. So then you don't actually ever arrive at anything. You're actually just revealing more and more of your authenticity to the world, and yeah, and that's all it is.
Remembering,
yeah.
It's a great way of looking at it. Just remembering.
Yeah, and I've had moments of massive shifts in consciousness over the years where I realize now that even with a huge shift in perception and in identity, you still continue the journey afterwards. So even someone that we look up to as enlightened, they're still on the journey themselves of deepening of their understanding of love and wisdom and truth and knowledge. Even someone who is enlightened still has that deepening until the day that they pass. So it's actually a never-ending scale up until who knows what's at the top of consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we can be feeling really good, really happy, and then we might have some downtime. Then we might feel really good, really happy, and then downtime. But people think we're going like this. We're not. We're actually elevating. We're going up, raising our vibration, our consciousness, and our knowledge. And then we might have some downtime, and then that's for us to learn. And it's also like a full circles. When we're at the top, we're feeling good. When we're down the bottom, that's when we have to do the work. But the more tools that we learn, the easier it gets.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it is about, if you think a book is a perspective, so in any given situation, in any given scenario of your life, if you have 100 books in your head, then you have 100 different perspectives about how to handle that situation. If you have 1,000, then you have 1,000 different people's minds in your mind that you get to go, oh yeah, this is. And the more books you read, the more knowledge you attain, the more you can apply it in different situations in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about we're on a learning journey. We are forever learning and growing and evolving and developing into our spiritual self, into our highest self.
Yeah.
And the more we do the work, and the more, as you said, the more books you read, like someone's studied for years and years and years, written a book, all that knowledge is in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we not want to attain that?
And also, all books. So I don't have a particular thing that I don't read. If it's in words, I'll read it, whether it's a leaflet or a flyer or a book or a small book or a big book or a thin book or whatever, a religious book, a philosophical book, a mathematic book, a physics book, a chemistry book. I'm reading it because there's something in it that will grow me in some way. So
what are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book by Richard Hawking by Dr. Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. And I'm reading another book called Letting Go, which is an amazing book about a guy who is a philosopher and scientist who was having a spiritual awakening, and he didn't tell anyone for 30 years.
Wow.
So he was having all of these transcendental experiences while he was a professor. And then after 30 years, he was like, I need to write a book. Like, so he literally wrote this book. And it's basically the how to have a spiritual awakening, but done in a scientific way.
Oh, wow.
Because he's a scientist, so he's worked out in diagram format, and it's exactly what I like to read. So.
Yeah, a lot of information in that. But
yeah, it's cool. What are you reading? Are you reading anything at the moment?
I'm studying the 7 Sacred Flames.
Right, you sent me the PDF.
Yeah. The 7 Sacred Flames is one of the most profound books for your spiritual growth into your ascension path. So the divine have 7 sacred flames that work in the universe, and especially with Earth. So you have God's will, you have illumination, you have divine love, you have ascension, you have healing, you have resurrection, and you have transmutation. So when you start working with the flames, you can call them in at any point, especially for the healing work I do. So learning how to work with the flames to go in and work with people with specific needs and stuff. So I'm studying that at the moment, so I'm keep reading that. I'm also reading a book about the Pleiadians, the Earth's Library, the Living Library. It's about Pleiadians. Beautiful book. And I've also been studying the law by is it the law? Working with the law, all about sacred energy and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got a couple on the go. At one point, I had about 7 or 8 books on the go, and in the end, I was just like, it's too much.
Oh, good, yeah. And there's another great way of reading a book, which my friend told me, which was just pick up any book at any time and open it at any page. And he's like, your brain doesn't need to do it in linear form. You can actually read a random chapter, read any random chapter, and your brain just naturally puts it in the order. So sometimes I'll just pick up random books and I'll just read 5 or 6 pages.
Yeah.
And what I find is when I do that, I actually open the page at something that's completely relevant to my life at that moment.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm just picking up random books, and sometimes I'm sticking to just one book.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Whatever you need right now will be shown to you. You're guided to open it at that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's full surrender.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that a few times. With me, I like to get a book, start the book, finish the book, then I go in randomly.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a reference.
So then and I mark things down, and I'm always studying. I watch a lot of videos as well, especially around with what I do with the breath work and the science of breath. I'm always watching that. I literally there's a breathwork summit going on at the moment. It's like 40 odd speakers. So I actually finished yesterday or something. So 40 odd speakers all talking about the science of breath, how the body works, how the mind works. So it's incredible. So I'm hooked on that at the moment. It's just something, and I bought a full access of it as well, where I can just go in and just watch it anytime.
Yeah, just
yeah. And there's an interview on there with my friend Steph Magenta, who's an amazing breath worker, and she's interviewing Richard Rudd from Gene Keys, and it is phenomenal. He talks all about how the breath is so important for the evolution and for ascension and stuff like that. So it is, it's very, very powerful. So I'm hooked on that.
Yeah, what I really love is that we go through these periods where we're absorbing as much knowledge and information. I can't even remember how many audiobooks I've listened to in the last 5 years.
No,
like it must be hundreds and hundreds of audiobooks and hundreds of YouTube. It's just like the most incredible library of information that didn't exist 30 years ago.
No, it's incredible.
And now we're 20 years into the age of information, and I have access to anything that I want at any time. It is expanding to be on the internet, because there's just so much available to anyone if they want to heal, if they want to expand, if they want to have a happier life. There's no excuses now.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that you want to, you need for your path. It's like you said, the healing. If I need healing, what do I need to do? I can just go and research it and get myself into that information. And the more you read it, I've got audiobooks and books I just read and read and read and listen to over and over again because it's so good. And every time I listen to it, it feels like I learn something new, or I hear something I didn't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a spiral. Every time I read The Power of Now, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I'd read it and then I'd read it again. And I think like the 5th or 6th time, I was like, man, I don't remember this chapter. And it was like the 6th time I've ever read the book, and I read an entire chapter that I didn't remember. I was like, I don't remember reading this, but because the mind will only receive what it's ready to receive. So you can read a book and you probably don't even realize that you've only remembered like 5% of it. So then you go back, and the more you read the same book over and over again, you have deeper and deeper understanding of the same book. So it just until you become whatever you've read.
It's because you're resonating with that more. Your vibrations in line with that.
Yeah. It's fascinating. So you could just read one book over and over again. It'll be like you're reading lots of different books.
Okay, so for the listeners, what if someone was just starting their spiritual journey, or they really wanted to delve into like spirituality, consciousness, what book would you recommend?
Well, I always recommend people with The Power of Now, because it is fundamentally one of the most relevant books written for our generation. Like Eckhart Tolle just wrote such a simple book. It's like all the ancient wisdom traditions and schools in Zen Buddhism and enlightenment and non-duality piled into a very well worded for our generation, so it's all worded with the stories and understanding and language that we understand. You can get into like scriptures and go into like Buddha's scriptures and go down that route, but you can summarize it with Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and just read it over and over again, and never stop reading it, because it reminds you that all that exists is the present moment, and it talks about the pain body, it talks about all of the relationships and enlightenment.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It's a great book, and The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle is amazing. So as a starter, it's just easy to read. There's no complicated words in it. It's a breeze. It really is a breeze to read it.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago. Perhaps I need to delve back in and have another read. Perhaps I'll read something and go, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, and it's just it just reminds you that all that exists is the present moment. I mean, The Power of Now is a great title as well.
Of course. And it's the thing, when people are in they're in anxiety or depression, they're either in the past or in the future, and if we can get them to come into that now moment and be present, we can change and create a new story.
That's right. Yeah.
We can change the pathways in the brain, being right here in the very now moment.
That's right. Yeah, and it's funny because the mental body of existence, the mental sphere of experience is pulling us in all sorts of directions, thinking, feeling, believing, future, past events. And in doing so, it's causing us to feel depressed and anxious and depressed and anxious and depressed and anxious and worry and concern and feel. So the mind's doing this, the body's kind of following suit. And we are the consciousness that is in the mix of all of that, lost in it in a way. We're kind of like deluded by all of these thought forms and all of these emotional reactions to things. And we purify the mental body by polishing it and becoming the witness of it, and then polishing and releasing. But the good thing about the power of now is, as you center yourself in the present moment is the doorway through which you feel in the present moment. And in a way, you could say the mind has created all of these mechanisms to prevent you from feeling. Because you don't want to feel pain, you don't want to feel resentment, you don't want to feel unforgiveness. No one wants to feel shame or guilt or anger or frustration. So the mind has collected all of these kind of like games up here to stop us from really truly feeling. But when you just stop and you center your mind, then you can really truly feel the experience of being alive. And whatever that feels like is just what it feels like in that moment. Sometimes it can be rage or terror or fear or anxiety or guilt or shame. But as soon as you stop to feel it, and it comes out of you, then you're finished with it. It's 10 minutes, it's half an hour, it's a couple of days of, but the more you turn your attention on it and really truly allow yourself to feel deeply into it, then it's like a pressure cooker letting off steam, and you're more and more free as you go through that process.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay to feel.
It's
okay. We're given these emotions for a reason, to feel them, to process them, to integrate them,
Yeah.
and then be able to transmute them and turn them into better energy and positive energy. And when we start coming really truly from the heart, the heart can transmute anything. So no matter what you're feeling, go into the heart, get the heart to transmute it, and then breathe. Breathing is the number one thing to get rid of anything that might be a bit discomfortable for you.
Yeah, I mean, breathing is the physical mechanism through which we remain in the present moment.
It's a gateway to every next moment.
Yeah, you can't breathe in the future and you can't breathe in the past. You can only breathe now. And as you become aware of that breath, you're immediately centered on the present moment. So the breath is another doorway into the present moment. It's amazing. And everything converges here all the time in this present moment. So I practice this by lighting a candle on my bathtub every time I have a bath. And then I would just say to myself, for the next hour, all that exists is the candle. Nothing else in the universe exists. I turn the lights off, and then I would just look at the candle for an hour. And every time my thought processes would go off on one, because they naturally do, when I realized that I was thinking, I would just bring it back to the candle. And then it would be thinking tomorrow, back to the candle. Oh, I need to do that thing. I need to call Joby. Oh, then back to the thing. Oh, my mum said this. Back to the thing. And the more you practice bringing it back to the candle, you're reconditioning your alignment over and over again. And then it gets easier and easier until you don't need to do that practice anymore, because all that exists is the present moment. So it's about pulling your mind out of the future, out of the past, and just continuously retraining it like you're training a dog. Literally like you're retraining a dog. It just wants to do what it wants to do, like a dog, and you have to kind of pull the dog over here and be like, no, here.
Yeah, command it.
Command it.
This is one of the things that helped me through my trauma, my anxiety, my depression, and everything I went through after multiple near-death misses was commanding to come back, commanding to be in the present moment, commanding to have happy, positive, loving thoughts coming through. That doesn't serve me. Like, it doesn't align with who I am and who I want to become.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
It's so true.
Yeah, like, literally, like, it's you're my brain in my body. This is what I had to get to in the end. I'm taking control of this. And then when I started doing that and I started commanding in, everything just changed. Everything. Your subconscious mind goes to work on that, goes to work on the command.
It does. It loves commands, and it also persuasion as well. The energy of persuasion, where you're like, come on. Like, or even encouragement. I encourage my thoughts when I'm thinking negatively about something, or I can realize that I'm judging something. or judging myself. I have a word with my mind. Hey, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to be
exactly.
judging me. I don't want to judge myself. I love me. Like,
Yeah,
I need to
exactly.
remind. And the thoughts are like, oh yeah, okay, okay. And then they, but
Yeah.
if you don't tell the mind, um, then it will just keep that habit. It's in a habitual motion. It's like trying to stop a ship. It's going to takes miles to slow down. So we have to continuously be chipping away at the mind. Be like, hey, just chill out. Like every. And one thing that I helped someone last night, but one thing that I've discovered is if everyone feels safe first and foremost before anything else, if we have a foundation within our being that is safety, that is I am safe at all times, that in and of itself corrects a lot of the mental problems that we have. Because the reason the mind is as active as it is because it's trying to keep us alive. It's in a survival mechanism, trying to plan things, categorize things, label things, judge things, analyze. It's trying to work all this shit out all the time. But if it only has that because of a feeling of unsafety, once you feel safe and secure within yourself and you've grounded yourself for years, the mind just naturally realizes it doesn't have to do all of this mental activity. And it just kind of slows down a little bit and it just chills. And it still pops up every now and again, like to piss you off. But generally, the mind just relaxes and relaxes and relaxes. And then the feelings have an opportunity to be felt. And then you have the opportunity to go through that process of healing. And it's the breath that takes you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the breath can really calm you down as well. When you take nice, long, slow breaths through the nose and you go into the belly, into the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, go into the sympathetic, which is flight and fight. You just naturally calm, it's about sending positive signals up the vagus nervous system into the brain. Yeah. The minute you change your breathing, you change the chemistry in the brain, neurons fire and wire in different patterns, you create new pathways, you start creating a new story. You can heal anything, like literally in minutes, if you want to.
Yeah, and the breath is immediate. It's like sometimes when I'm on the beach and I'm doing some breath work and I'm breathing and I'm breathing and I'm breathing and I'm realizing I'm getting really, really high. And I'm feeling like I'm feeling this DMT release from my body. I'm having this transient experience where the world seems to be like in a matrix or something like that. And you go through that process and you realize that there is free drugs everywhere, and it's called air. It's like it's everywhere and it's free and it's available. It's available to everyone at any time, and all you have to do is stop and use it.
We'll never ever run out of oxygen to breathe. This is an abundance.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in every nook and cranny of our planet, and we have the opportunity to take as much of it in as possible.
It is the Holy Spirit. My guide showed me in a ceremony. It's the Holy Spirit. They took me up into the cosmos, and they showed me the universe breathing.
Expanding and retracting, like everything is in a constant. That goes down to the Hermetic principles that everything is in rhythm. Even the entire universe is in a state of rhythm. It's not in a static.
Of course.
Like the tides of the ocean.
Of course, Mother Earth has a sound that you can hear sometimes when you go into meditation. You hear the humming, you hear the sound, the vibrations. Yeah. And that's the more you elevate your vibration and your consciousness, the more that comes in. So when people get ringing in ears, it's like guides are trying to give you a message, like it's information. It's not bad. It's like you're being elevated up.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen and heard things over the last couple of years that have been unexplainable. And when I look at the corner of my eye or I hear something and I go, okay, well, I have the understanding, okay, well, I'm going to be seeing and hearing things for the next 30 or 40 years that perhaps I wasn't attuned to 5-10 years ago. Yeah. So as things do shift in terms of modular visuals and hearing, we're going to be clair-audio. We're going to start hearing frequencies and things around us that we weren't in alignment with as we grow into our physical manifestation of our divine potential, essentially. So absolutely. You said something. You said something earlier about changing your story, and I felt called to talk about that because for anyone that's watching and they're stuck in this narrative or story about what happened to you, the individual. Is I did something years ago, which not only was I healing from my past experiences, but I was reconstructing my timelines in my mind, and I was projecting a complete false And this was a technique that was taught to me. So instead of the time that my dad threw me off the boat, which caused me loads of trauma, I said how wonderful it was that my dad helped me in this experience. And what I did is, instead of him throwing me off the boat at the age of 6, I said that he didn't throw me off the boat, and he actually kept me on the boat. And we barbecued together, and we played guitar and sung Kumbaya around a fire. And my mum was really smiling and in a beautiful dress, and my brother was really happy, and my dad was great, and he was really encouraging, and he was proud of me on the boat. And it was a much more beautiful experience. Now that's what reality I imagine. And yeah, he did in that timeline throw me off a boat, and it was very traumatic. But when I think back to that experience now, I've completely passed it over it with a completely different scenario in my imagination.
Of course.
Because we now, in the present moment, have the ability to redefine our past and how it has defined us as people.
Of course. Well, if everything is in the now moment, that means that happened right now.
It's happening right now. So why not imagine something that's awesome right now?
Mm.
And part of my healing my dad and my mother wound over the last 5 years, 6 years, has been me reimagining what my parents were when I was younger. And now my dad's an amazing guy. He was like this tall, handsome athlete, and he would be taking me out to school dinners. And it sounds delusional because it feels like you're denying your true past. But what is your true past? Your true past is whatever you choose it to be right now.
Exactly.
So you could say that you were just imagining an alternative timeline that you also lived.
Well, seeing 0 point.
0 point, which is now.
Yeah, 0 point. So we can go back to 0 point, and we can change anything, and we can create anything that we want, and everything is there for us to truly
choose.
To choose, yeah, exactly.
It's like in The Matrix, when at the very end of the Matrix film, when Mr. Smith has destroyed Neo over and over again, and he says, "Why do you keep getting up?" "Because I've destroyed you over and again." And he stands up and he goes, "Because I choose to." Because ultimately, it always comes down to the choice, free will to choose whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a lot of people who are really suffering with, like, I suffer bad of anxiety, but when I still see people still suffering, it's like, it's a choice. You can choose to get rid of your trauma, your pain. You don't have to hold on to it. You're holding on to it. And you can tell people's energy can be like quite tense with the people I see. And like, as soon as you get them to make that different choice, and you see their body relaxing, and all of a sudden you can see they're creating a new story in their mind, and they're creating that new vision, that new what they want it to be. And again, even going back, it's like doing that shadow work, going back and just changing the story. Shadow work can be so easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard. Everyone makes this, you got to do shadow work. But it's like, but people are tending to do it in this most painful, traumatic way. I see these healers and I'm like, you can make it easier as hard as you choose. Why? You don't heal trauma with trauma.
No.
Like,
and I think a lot of what I found is I was so fascinated by healing. I was like, what do you mean we can heal ourselves? Like, I was like, there's spiritual people on a planet? Like, I don't understand what spirituality is. So I became so obsessed with it that I found that some people, I had a non-dual awakening in terms of I was just gone, like, and I was just and then I was just trying to figure out the rest of the human experience. Like, I have a body, I have thoughts, I have beliefs, I have assumptions, I have emotions, and I feel like I've been untangling myself from a very tight knot. But the whole time that I was doing it, despite the pain, despite the rawness of it, despite the shame and the guilt and the anger, there was, because of the meditation, because of my perspective, even though I was reeling around in agony sometimes, like purging a demon, there was a little side of me while this was happening where I was like, yeah, this is great. This is
gotta love a purge.
Yeah, who doesn't love a purge? Like, and I obviously over the years, as you wake up and as you become more and more yourself, you know that you're going to go through a period like you talked about, where you have an elevation, where you feel like God, you feel like you can achieve anything, and then you have a period where you just feel like crap. And you have to remove all of the crap that was preventing you from feeling like God. And then you rise a little bit more up, and then you have another elevation, and then you have another period of integration. And this is just a never-ending ladder.
Layers upon layers upon layers,
yeah.
And just deepening and opening up and elevating ourselves
like
to
a flower,
yeah,
unfolding, and it never ends.
no,
And my realizations, even in the last couple of weeks, is if I die tomorrow, I'm totally fine with it. Like I feel like I've had such a wonderful 10 years. I feel so happy all the time now that I feel like it's so at rest that I know that even if whatever I do after this, I'm just going to feel great about it. Even if
exactly.
it's a failure or a success or a good thing or a bad thing or whatever we label it, ultimately, my internal state will be feeling fantastic.
Yeah. I was actually watching the Bashar thing the other day on Untitled Channels. I know you love Bashar, and he was saying like manifestations, everything is just about creating a reality of joyful, exciting experiences.
Yeah,
When you create that reality of what is going to be my next joyful, exciting, happy experience,
yeah,
you'll just keep
manifesting it.
manifesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that he talks about a lot, which is choosing your preference.
Mm.
Elevate yourself to your preference in the morning and say, for the rest of the day, regardless of people, regardless of circumstances, regardless of the weather, I'm going to maintain this. And this is what I'm going to do. And, the first time you do it, you'll fail. The second time you do it, you'll fail. The third, the fifth, the next week, the month, the next year. If you just I've done this for 2 years now, and very rarely do I get knocked off out of alignment.
No.
Very rarely. Now I'm just walking among people like, buzzing. Like I'm
I'm the
buzzing.
same.
I'm just like having the best time, but everyone's got their coats on. It's raining, or like standing outside, and I'm just walking among them like we're on a planet. Like
we're
we're alive.
we're in space. Like we're part of the creation
Like
of all it is and all it will ever be. It's someone said the other day when you're being really quiet. I was like, yeah, I just prefer it inside here. I remember having so much fun talking to angels, guides, like masters.
Yeah.
Like I just have so much fun in my. I was like, I don't need to talk. I don't need to be loud.
Oh, it's amazing, and it's funny because 10 years ago I was listening to Alan Watts, and
I love Alan Watts.
he says a truly enlightened person walks among other people with such compassion and such empathy towards their unconsciousness, without labeling it unconsciousness, just understanding that people who have the elevation, who have the opportunity to awaken, then in a way walk among the other people in a state of observation.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I meet people in the street, I am just continuously mirroring them. So if they come to me with lots of pain, I immediately drop down into pain. And I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. And, if you want to have a coffee, let's hang out.
So, like NLP.
Yeah. And then if I'm walking down the street and I bump into another person, he's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, what's up? Like mirror that guy for 10 minutes and talk to him at his level. And so I can jump now. Never having the ability, I was always trying to figure out my social situations. Like, did I talk well enough? What did I do the right thing? Did I piss that person off? Like, now I'm just in my preference, which is only see love, only see happiness, only see joy. Try not to judge anyone.
No, never.
Because everyone is a soul living out their own perfect incarnation.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's on their journey doing their thing, and
whatever they need to do.
Exactly, and people are going through things as well because that's their contract. They've got to go through that to learn and grow and evolve.
Yeah, and we as light workers, we just offer them. If I felt the need last night when I bumped into a friend to offer him some advice at the end, I talked to him for a few hours, and then I was like, hey, can I give you some? He was like, yeah. And then I just shared loads of things with him, and he was super grateful and happy to see me, and we hugged and declared our love for each other, and then he went on his way. But it's not always appropriate to offer advice or offer a remedy to a situation. Sometimes it's better to just keep your mouth closed.
Of course, not only that, you might change someone's path, and that's not the path they're supposed to be on. So you have to be very careful with what you say. But yes, it's very interesting. I'm drawn to your story last night. I know you told me this before, but things happen in life for a reason. Like you was out last night, you was meditating at 10:30 out, which is not many people would do anyway, right? So but this guy you haven't seen for 10 years, all of a sudden was there.
So random.
No random.
And Yeah, I'm sitting, for all the viewers, last night I went for a meditation in my
Mm.
local town. I went to the pier near the coast, and I was sitting next to like a monument in this little shady spot out of the wind, and it was dark, right? And then out of the corner of my eye, I look, and there's a man approaching me from nowhere, and he's like, "Hi, hi, hi there," and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" Like it's like 10:30 at night, and he turned out to be someone I went to school with 10 years ago,
It's crazy.
and I said to him, why did you come over and interrupt me? I'm not mad, but why did you do it? And he says, I was sitting on a bench just over here, and he says he felt the strong inkling to go over and talk to me, and he didn't even know who I was.
Mm.
So he stood up and walked over, and then just walked over to me and said hi there, and got my attention. And he went to quickly make a phone call, and I had the realization that that's uncoincidental. It cannot be considered a coincidence that someone who I knew 10 years ago would walk to somewhere that there was no one else, and then tap him on the shoulder and be like, hey.
Yeah, and then you end
So,
up giving him beautiful advice and things. The
yeah,
reason I wanted to go back to that is because I just feel like it was such a profound moment probably for him.
really profound.
Profound moment. Like the universe brings things together.
Yeah,
It's like actors waiting to walk on into your movie, right?
right.
Dolores Cannon said this. I remember reading one of her books, and she said about that. Like people were there just waiting to come into your life, and the experience that you sat with them for a couple of hours. You wasn't expecting you sitting there meditating, and then all of a sudden you've helped him just
Yeah,
through being there.
yeah. He even said to me, because I haven't seen. He says, "Man, I really love all your work on TikTok and what you on Facebook and your traveling and everything." He was really praising me. And I
Mm.
was like, it's great. And another thing that I got from it is that, which I'm also learning, which is I am becoming an inspiration to other people because I hear it more and more on my journey as I grow, as I push myself, as I dedicate myself to this knowing thyself path. I see lots of people around me looking over and going, wow, that's hardcore. And he said to me last night, he was like, so praising and so complimentary of me that I had to sit and receive that. I had to
Mm.
sit as this guy who,
Hard for us to receive sometimes.
right. So I just sat there, and then you have to develop humility, otherwise you become
Mm.
an arrogant prick.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm
You
like,
have to say,
wow,
you have to be grateful, and yeah, exactly.
thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much. And again, and then haven't seen him in 10 years, and he's like, he gives me a cuddle, and he's like, oh, I really love you, Chris. Thank you so much for your time. And
that's beautiful.
he just left in an energy field that he didn't arrive
Mm.
in.
Exactly, and
And
that's
for me,
amazing.
as long as we can meet and people are elevated and then they go on their journeys, that elevation is the purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Always leave the room better than you left it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
As often as you can. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like even just like some people might be listening to this and they might be not knowing what their purpose is or whatever, but even just being you and just being nice and smiling and being happy, and
Yeah.
you can change someone's life completely. Like imagine how he's feeling today.
Yeah, I've been receiving messages from him today,
Mm.
and now that I know he lives in town where I live, I'll meet him once a week and we'll hang out now. So
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah,
That's so cool.
you are so right. One thing I always had this idea that I would have to at some point go into the world, inject myself into the world, and become someone or achieve something, and that is actually false. By just doing work on yourself, by just focusing on your spiritual journey, by just uncovering your true self, you naturally become the person who you naturally will become. And there's no effort required on your part to achieve
Mhm.
anything because you're in a flow state. You're just focused, you're being yourself, people are calling you, you're doing emails, you're bumping into that person at the perfect time in order to make that phone call, to make that connection. And then you start aligning all of your things, start getting in alignment. So it was one thing that Bentino taught me, Bentino Massaro, which is sometimes you do have to wait 2 years for the perfect time. He says he had this strong feeling that he just had to sit and wait. So he did like 9 months, and he just lived in his mum's bedroom, which I can relate to.
Yeah, me too.
And he's living in his mum's bedroom, and he says literally he had this feeling that he just had to wait. And it was resisting because he said, "Oh, I should be doing something. I should be doing something." And he was like, "No, no, no, just wait, wait, wait." And then, bam, everything took off for him. And he says it
Yeah,
was
it's
just
amazing.
that waiting, just waiting, being patient, deepening your faith, having trust, deepening and deepening and deepening, and then you're off on what he calls accelerative living.
Exactly. When you develop that trust and you surrender everything over, it's going to absolutely open up.
Yeah,
There's
it's
power in surrender.
Continuous surrender. Who am I to choose anything? Who am I to think that I know what I'm doing? Like, I saw a really funny sticker once, and it was in a bar, and it said, "If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans." And I just thought that was genius, because it's like, oh, you think you have plans, really? Well, God's like, well, we'll show you what the plan is. So it is a continuous surrendering. But there's something I wanted to bring up with you, which is, has there ever been a point in your journey, Joby, that you felt like you were going past the point of no return, and you were just, that was it? Like, you were saying and releasing and saying goodbye to things and changing in such a way that you were getting to the point where you were just, that was it. This is now it. Like, there's not something you can step away from now. Like, it's got you.
Yeah, absolutely. That happened to me with my breathwork. Obviously, was doing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency first, and then I was training in my shamanic work and doing everything else on the side. And then when I had my car accident and got squashed by the lorry, it was just like it just happened. Like, it grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, and then it was just like, this is what you're here to do. You're not here to do Bitcoin. You're not here to do that. You're here to do this journey. You're here to help with ascension for the planet. Like, okay.
You just remembered all of a sudden, like, oh yeah.
I had to just like, it's time. It's time for you to be a healer.
Yeah, I have this thing that I'm continuously pushing the threshold of what this experience is, and I've become a bit of a junkie. I'll be honest, I'll use the right term. I've become a complete introverted junkie, because any spare second, any spare hour or half an hour, I'm inwards. Like, I'm just sitting.
Yeah.
And it's become ridiculously unproductive for my life, because I have an automatic default to be in meditation, and it is completely unproductive in reality, because we got conversations and relationships to do and make phone calls and email people, and I really love being alone. I've become a bit of a spiritual hermit in terms of, and now I'm pulling myself back out of this rabbit hole that I fell into, like, just got lost in this sea of philosophy, and now I'm trying to get back into reality and, like, get into the gym and get my body strong again, and nutrition again, and meet people again, go on dates with people again, or meet friends and go to the cinema, and go to an event, or just go to any event. Go to any event and meet any human being, like, because otherwise I'm heading down. I'll just be going to grow a beard and become a monk and live in a tree, like,
again.
I just have these moments where I'm like, wow, India is where I need to be. I need to just check out.
I might fancy a beard and go to India.
Yeah. And I keep having these feelings and thoughts I'll share with you, that I was like, right, India, 10 years. If I go to India for 10 years, I'll be 48. And then I'll come back and I'll start my pilgrimage. And I keep prolonging all of the work I'm going to have to do by suggesting that I go sit in India in silence for another 10 years. Because why not? Why wouldn't we do that? Like, it seems, who knows what I'll be in 10 years if I did that.
I was watching a thing with Sagradoo. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Oh, Sadhguru, yeah.
Sadhguru. He basically was saying he was in India, and he went up on this mountainside, like it was like a viewing point thing, and he said he sat down, he was meditating, and he said when he come round, people were like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, well," he's like, "You've been here 13 days." Literally meditated 13 days, and he was just literally completely gone. No, he was like, when you've been here 30 days, he said he had crowds of people around him, like just literally just watching him, taking photos of him. He said like when he came around, they was putting all flowers on him. Like he was like,
yeah,
13 days, just completely in meditation.
Hardcore. I mean, that's true. You're so disengaged with physical reality.
Yeah, he says you don't become you're not your body. Obviously, you're just
You're just in a state of being.
Mm.
You're in a state of isness, and isness doesn't register, although it does understand the five senses. Isness isn't interested in the five senses. So once you get to the point of complete stillness and isness within yourself, the five senses as a vehicle through which we're experiencing physical reality, you're able to just slowly allow those five senses to just be whatever they want to be. You know that you're comfortable, you know that you're warm, you know that you're safe. So in those knowingness, you allow the five senses to just be, and then you just pull your awareness to your center of your heart. And in doing so, you realize that all of those finer elements of the experience within us are higher frequencies, that this is lower frequency, and the actual spirit, the soul, the essence of us is a very, very high frequency. And the more you pull yourself into that frequency, it's like being pulled back through a tunnel of love and bliss. And Satguru would have just been in that experience. He would have just been in
Oneness,
for
complete
13
oneness.
days. I mean, he must, but from his
Forever.
perspective, from the physical mind's perspective, once you switch your physical mind off, or it comes to stillness, it's only the physical mind that has a concept of time.
Mm.
The essence, the soul, doesn't have any concept of time. So once his physical mind had come to silence and he was able to enter into the kingdom of heaven, then him coming back after 13 days could feel like 13 minutes.
That's what he says. There was no time at all.
No time at all.
No
Yeah,
time.
that's right. I sometimes I can be gone for 2 hours and it will feel like 15, 20 minutes. And I'll just lose an entire hour. And then I have to ask myself, well, was I deep in meditation or did I fall asleep?
Mm.
Because I have no concept of time. Like, was I asleep or was I meditating?
Yeah.
Because there's no memory of anything because you're out of your mind.
Yeah, I love it when I have a meditation and I just go. I come round, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Hours.
Yeah. Meditation is addictive because you realize there's an entire world. There is an entire universe existing within you that's not outside of you. And there are hundreds of feelings and thoughts and beliefs and assumptions and angels and guides and soul families and ascended masters and hierarchical structures of Christ consciousness and the legions of lights. And, there's so much happening in non-physical reality that's more interesting than what's happening in physical reality. So then the idea of just closing your mind every half an hour and just having a nice chat with your guides is way more appealing than talking to anyone else.
This is exactly what I was saying a minute ago. I just love being inside. When I'm there, I can go anywhere.
Yeah, and I sometimes have this thing from a societal unconscious perspective. We are lunatics, right? we're from a societal unconscious perspective. We're two lunatics who think they talk to angels. But once you experience it directly and you understand the vibrations and communication, then you're just ecstatically happy and filled with energy all the time. And that in and of itself proves that it's real. If someone's energy is elevated and happy and full of power and full of thing, then you can prove that that is a real experience.
Yeah.
You can't fake joy.
No.
You can't fake love and compassion and empathy. They're not fakeable. You can't pretend to be compassionate.
No.
You can only develop it within yourself, which then proves that all of these mystery elements of the angels and the guides and the spirit masters and Jesus and all of these people, ultimately, as you believe, so it will be done unto you. So if you don't believe in angels, then you can't connect with angels. If you do believe in angels, then you can connect with angels. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah, exactly. It's everyone's own perspective, right? Everyone's
That's
own
right.
journey. Some people are not here to connect to do that. Some people are here to do other stuff. But
That's right, yeah.
But for me, it was when I had a real dark night of the soul, and I was in Colombia, and it was just something come over me to call in God and Jesus. Like, I thought I was doing my shamanic work anyway, I was connected, but it was the angels that come to me in that time of my dark night of the soul, and it was like, okay, and that was the real opening for me. Like, it just opened everything in my life, and everything since then has been, I can't go a day without talking to them. I can't go a day without calling them in. I can't. It's just, like, if I do, I feel really weird.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened about 2 years ago, I came connected 3 years ago, Jesus. And it was, I'd have most of my day just living, and then I would call Jesus in and pray, and then it would just be angels and mostly Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, and Shamuel, just those three, and Jesus, and it was like this over and over again. And then I was having more and more realizations that I didn't have to call them in, and there wasn't even a calling in because they're never away from me anyway. So then I just talk to them as if I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, like I'm just talking to them non-stop. Like I don't call them in and invoke them through some chant. They're right here, like wherever here is. Like, and whether it's in physical reality and we just can't see them, or they're just in a different frequency or dimension, they're definitely present, because whenever I ask for something, I immediately get the answer. So it's like, oh, what should I do in this situation? Like, what's the best for everyone in this situation? And that's generally what my always intention is. Like, what am I trying to achieve here? What's the best for everyone? And then the answer immediately comes to me. This is
what's for the highest good.
What's for the highest good of all? Not about me or anyone else, but everyone included. How do we elevate everyone? So, it's just been amazing.
It's just an amazing journey when you get to connect, and when you go on that journey with them, and knowing that they're especially guardian angels, and they can only help you if you ask as well. Some people might go, oh, I don't know my guardian angels. I don't know they can only help if you ask. It's the law of free will. So you have to go in, you have to ask, and they will come. They will come.
They're there to help you. They're literally waiting, like,
yeah, come on. Come on.
They keep bringing things into your experience just so you wake you up further and further. And the more you awaken, the more you realize that everything has been placed in front, or you're even generating everything in order to wake yourself up. You're creating all of the problems and the pain and the suffering in order to get yourself higher and higher in consciousness, so you can realize more and more things. Because the soul, regardless of circumstance, regardless of the feelings and the thoughts you have about reality, your soul is literally dancing all the time. It's like the soul doesn't care what you're thinking or what you're feeling. Like, oh, I feel this and I think this and I'm a terrible person. The soul is just like, it's sunbathing. Like, the soul is sunbathing the whole time.
I just got this picture of the soul, pair of sunglasses on.
He's just like chilling. He's in a frequency that is pure love, pure light. So it's the spiritual journey is not only removing your false sense of identity and shifting your sense of identity from egoic self-image. Improving your self-image include using your ego as a tool, as a means of communication, but also shifting your identity that's not body conscious into soul identity. So you actually first and foremost feel like a soul before you feel an emotion. You feel like a soul before you think a thought. You feel like a soul before you enjoy sensory pleasure, or anything that's tasting good or smelling good, or sexual experiences, or anything. Before any of those experiences, you are a soul first and foremost. And that is just a shifting of identity from physical reality into non-physical reality. Or so I found it anyway.
Certainly what it's about. It's about everyone's own perspective on what is happening to them and what is for them. Yeah. And experiencing so many things that you find what is right for you and find what is the right path. And if you try something, you don't like it, fine, move on to something else.
Do something else, yeah. And you have to eat that food in order to know that you don't like it. So in life, we should be looking. We should be allowing the play of mistakes and failures and success, and as kind of like going over the rapids as you go down the road. As you go, each one has value. You just have to see it from that perspective. Like, a good example of this is you're stressed, you're working too much, and you're not taking time for your health, and then you break your toe. Someone will be like, man, I broke my toe, this sucks. But, now you have to sit on your ass for 6 weeks, which is exactly what you need to do to slow down and not work so much and not stress. So although you broke your toe and it sucks, ultimately in 6 weeks' time, you're way more peaceful as a person.
Yeah, that's what happened to me when I had the lorry hit me. The guys would literally pull the plug out of me. I was like, you need to slow down. What are you doing? I was traveling. I was like, you need to slow down. You need to focus on you, your healing journey, and do the work and just be. There's a power in just being.
Yeah, just be.
Just be.
It's paradoxical because it feels so unnatural. The physical mind wants to be doing all sorts of things in physical reality, and the capitalist system that's imposed on us also makes us feel like we're lazy. So being is not productive. So if you're not being productive, you're a lazy person in society. But really, just being has why I'm so healthy. Like I've never felt so vibrantly healthy, and it's because I'm not doing anything. I'm literally existing on this earth, and I'm feeding myself good things, and I'm playing music, and I'm helping as many people as I can. But at no point do I feel like I have to do anything.
No, music
Just
is the soul of the universe. It's like
I'm blessed to have that musical gift.
you have got gifts as well. You really have.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
I was watching you on TikTok the other day, and it was like someone just was like, "Play this." Okay, cool. Boom, just started playing it, and then he was like, "Hold on a minute. Let me just go into my subconscious mind. Let me retrieve that song." It was about 20 seconds, and he just started playing it.
Yeah. It's like
Hundreds and hundreds of songs.
it's just because your mind is like the Akashic records. Your mind stores everything. The mind actually records everything, but it's stored immediately into the hard drive of your subconscious mind. So even if you can't really consciously remember it, the subconscious mind always remembers everything. So if someone requests a song, they go, "Oh, can you play the Eagles?" I just need to remind myself of which Eagles songs I've learned over the years and whether I know the words or the chords or the melodies or the harmonies. And I'm like, "Take It Easy," Hotel California, Take It to the Limit. And I go, "Okay, cool. Yeah, they're all there, but you don't know you know them until someone says the Eagles."
Mm.
If someone says, "Play some songs," I'm like, which, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I know. Like,
You don't know what you know until you know it.
yeah, and I have set lists and I play set lists, but that TikTok going live on TikTok has been amazing, good fun, and I've learned dozens of songs through TikTok because people are requesting songs all the time. So it's a great.
Yeah. And just to comment on that as well, like obviously I've known you for a long time now, a few years, and just seeing you from where you was back then when we very first met to now, you're doing live TikToks. It just shows you that if you put your mind to things and you really just go for it, the confidence you get, it's like comfort zone is like here. This is like what you're going to get, what you can potentially have if you just expand that comfort zone a little bit, and you end up growing into what you are now, which is so beautiful to watch because.
Mate, I appreciate it, and you as well is first and foremost from doing the ayahuasca with you and stuff. I always felt connected to you as a brother, and I always loved how you navigated your way through social situations and your ability to complement easily. But it's a very complementary relationship that we have, and in a way, you noticing my growth confirmed the growth that I perhaps hadn't seen in myself.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone grow as fast as you did in that space of time.
There was like 2.5 years of just I was like manically depressed with shame and guilt and anger and frustration to me being like I can walk on stage now and just talk to anyone about anything.
Yeah, even like just being live on TikTok, you wouldn't have done that 2.5 years ago.
No, I would have been terrified of being. I would have scared let alone sitting and doing a gig or like. And I think busking around Europe helped me.
Oh my god! When you do anything like that, even busking itself is like you're out performing. Like that is out of your comfort zone, right?
When we first sat down in Holland, when we got to Holland, I sat down and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm busking. I feel like a beggar." I felt like a beggar. I was ashamed. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm like this." I had a little beard and I'm like playing this music. And then we started making money, and I was like, "This is pretty good, actually." And then over the months, we were like pros. We'd just go to city centres. We'd get like 300 people in a semicircle singing in Germany, in Munich. And we went to this it was like 5,000 people in this huge square. And we set up in the corner, we cranked the amp and we played. And hundreds of people became in a semicircle. And people were dancing. They were throwing money at us. And then the police came. The police came and shut us down. Because I think in 7 songs, we made like 300 euros.
Wow.
I was like, wow, we could have done 20 songs and made $1,000. It was just unreal. But I learned a lot about going out on stage and saying, hey, I'm here to say something. I have something to say. And Paul's an amazing musician. I'm an amazing musician. And you guys are going to pay us all of this money because we're going to show you what we can do on the guitars. And that developed over the 6 or 7 months. Now I've moved over to TikTok and I'm just saying whatever I need to say in the way that I need to say it. And what people think about it is irrelevant.
Who cares?
Who cares?
I've got a message to put out, and I don't care even if one person. I don't care if just one person likes the video, whatever. I'll do something for likes. It's about putting a message out, and especially for me with what I'm doing as well, mine's a little bit different to yours. Obviously, I'm doing the breath, a lot more on the breath, and still got a consciousness side and spirituality side to things. But mine's about teaching people how to elevate themselves and empower themselves with the breath. Like, and I don't care if it just helps one person. That's good enough for me.
That's right.
When I get thousands of people liking the videos and they're all writing me messages, oh my God, this is incredible, and things like that, it's like, that is why I do what I do. That is why I am here, and I'm very, very grateful to be able to have. Like, your gift is music. I've been given the gift of breath.
Right, and your passion for it. And
my God,
I've got two things. I think public speaking and music are my two main focuses, and just teaching in a funny way, just teaching in a light way. Spirituality doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't even have to be taken. Everything can be taken with a pinch of salt. Yeah.
Yawning. This is what
Alan Watts says this amazing thing about rascality. And rascality is like the salt you put in a stew. It's the most important part. If you make a stew but you don't put salt in it, it's going to be bland. And rascality, he refers to in Zen Buddhism. He says that rascality is the secret ingredients to living, which is like, even if you become enlightened, be a bit of a rascal at the same time. Like, don't be too demure, and don't be too smug, and don't be too enlightened, because then people will just be like, well...
but then it goes into ego, right?
Yeah. So it's okay to, like, be a rascal, be cheeky, be funny, say fuck, not care what anyone thinks, because ultimately, this is why Noel Gallagher is so famous. He not only wrote a bunch of songs, which are amazing, and he had a great band, but ultimately he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. And if you watch all of his interviews, he just says whatever he thinks. Sometimes he's calling people out. Sometimes he's saying people are full of shit. Sometimes he's swearing at people. He's starting arguments with people. But ultimately, what do we love about him? Authenticity. It's authentic. It's real. He knows that he's a nice person deep down inside. And he knows this is all just banter and crap. But that's why he's so famous, because he just said whatever he wanted to say through music, and hundreds of millions of people bought his record. It's fascinating.
It's like bringing that childlike element into what you do, and that's why I just love having fun. I just made that yawn a minute ago. We done a class last night on my 21-day course, and I was getting people to yawn. And yawn, I had to actually, through my breathwork training, even just mention it, that for someone does it right. Even from my breathwork training, we had to learn how to yawn and breathe and sigh at the same time. It's like, it was advanced training. And I was getting them to do it last night. And in the end, every single person was laughing. Like, we was just having so much fun. Everyone was like, that was the most fun journey I've had. Like, it was brilliant. And when you bring that fun element into, especially what we're doing, and make it a little bit lighthearted, people ease into it, and people can work into that a little bit more. When it becomes too serious and it has that very serious element to it, people go, oh, I don't want to do that. But if it's fun, people go, oh, I like that, I enjoyed that. But it's even last night, like, the yawning mechanism itself actually has been scientifically proven that lights up the brain more activity than any other breath or anything that you will do for your body. And the mechanism of the yawn is centered right in the middle of the brain.
Wow.
Okay, so when you yawn, you light up the whole brain. You literally are creating so many new pathways and electrons and neurons in the brain. Like, you get rid of depression, anxiety, like, in no time with the yawn. And what people don't realize is doing it in such a fun, light-hearted way, I'm completely transforming them on a cellular level.
Yeah, it's.
They don't even know what I'm doing.
No, and it's funny because the yawn is like the releasing mechanism for mental and emotional energy that's existing. Once you start realigning it, it needs some mechanism to release. So the yawn is really amazing through kinesiology. When they do muscle testing on people,
Mhm.
You find that people who do the muscle testing, they're yawning all the way through that
Mhm.
process. They're just yawning and
It's
yawning, and it's like,
nature's way of releasing energy and vibrations within the body. And
yeah,
we're programmed to think that yawning is rude. If you're having a conversation with someone and you yawn, goes, "Oh, what, am I boring you?" or something like that.
yeah.
But that's programming. Like yawning is actually clears the way for,
It's lightening the energy
yeah,
between the two people.
yeah, and if,
Someone like, if two people are having a conversation and one of them is having quite an intense time, the other person might naturally start yawning in order to dissipate that energy between
mm,
them.
yeah,
It's
and
amazing,
it
really.
brings in more clarity and more focus. So if I'm actually having a conversation with you and I yawn, it means I can actually bring in
More
more, and I can focus
people,
more. Yeah, and you're,
you're making energetic space for yourself
mm,
and for
yeah,
us. Yeah,
yeah, and
it
it's
is.
nature's way of releasing energy. So may my yawn activate your
Oh, that's a
yawn.
bumper sticker. We need to get a bumper sticker. May my yawn activate your yawn. But I thought about this as well. Like, if you make a video, announce it to the world, and you'll be like, "Hey, my name is Joby, and this is a message for everyone on the planet. If you have a phone or a computer, you can watch this video. I want everyone to start yawning, sighing and yawning. Start a world movement of sighing and
I've
yawning.
done it. I've done it about 30 times on here already.
Like,
I just naturally do it. I'm consciously breathing all day, so I'm always aware of my breath.
because it would just dissipate. It would just naturally dissipate pressure and energy from the collective if we
Oh
can get
God!
everyone yawning
Oh my
and
God!
sighing. Another thing that I want to do, I imagine myself being on stage at some point in front of hundreds of people talking, and one thing that I'm going to do is, they used to do this at the shaman's retreat I used to go to, and they used to get everyone to stand up. Everyone stand up. Everyone spend the next 1 minute complimenting as many people as you can. Go. And get hundreds of people turning to random strangers and just having to compliment them for a minute, is the quickest way to raise a vibration of a collective group of people. So the random people are turning to strangers and like, "Oh, you're really beautiful, and I like your coat, and you have really amazing eyes, and oh, thank you." And then that person has to receive compliments and then give compliments to some random guy who's like, "Oh, I like your beard, and your jacket is nice," or something. I don't know, but you
Of course.
that 1 minute of that is enough to heal hundreds of people, because afterwards everyone feels great.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
like, I've received compliments, I've given compliments, everyone is happy. It's a bit of a funny, awkward thing to do,
Of course, we're
but
not used to
ultimately,
receiving compliments. We're not used to taking them, and when we get them, it's that awkward thing. It's like when
yeah,
you
yeah,
get a compliment, take it, thank you, I'm so grateful. But what one person's energy, when they're in the highest vibration, can um, affect 100,000 people in vibrational energy.
yeah. Like Freddie Mercury is a walking example of a spiritual master, because although he was a musical genius and he wrote all sorts of things that we'll listen to forever, when he's on stage and he has 96,000 people at Wembley copying and mimicking him, or deo, dido do dido do dido do dido dido do, like that. No other human man has ever done that in the history of rock and roll, in the history of music concerts that have ever existed. There has only been one Freddie Mercury, and who just carelessly did it and then does it as a joke because it's so easy for him. So he's just like, okay, cool. That's just something that I do on the side, control 100,000 people's voice, like, and it's effortless for him. And and him and Tony Robbins and all of these, Les Brown and all of these people, the presence that they have when they walk on stage is awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it
And
really
they've
is.
cultivated it over a lifetime. And this is all my journey is to cultivate the confidence to stand on stage and just free speak without any thought,
Mm.
and have people go, I like that guy, or I don't like that guy, whatever they're resonating with.
And even if they don't like me, I don't care.
Yeah, but you can't deny love.
No.
You can't deny excitement. You can't deny happiness. These are all parts of being God. That God is unconditional love, unconditional happiness. And when you're in a state of being that's just so accelerated and so happy that it's almost considered rude when you're talking to someone who's depressed. Like if I'm at a very high level of ecstatic confidence and bliss, and I'm running around Swanage having a great time, and I bump into someone who's manically depressed, it would be considerably rude for me to just maintain that level of happiness. So you have to make concessions, and you have to come down and be like, "Are you okay? is there anything I can help you with? And
Of course.
otherwise, you're just this radical guy running through the high street. Everyone thinks you're an alien. There's Chris the alien.
Yeah.
I am an alien. Well, we all are on some level.
What was that?
That's my alien. That's how the alien.
Oh, I love it. Brilliant.
In another incarnation, I had lots of arms.
Oh, okay. Probably, definitely.
Definitely at some point, maybe even still. I have this from studying the work of Bashar. I wonder whether I'm not actually even here, and that I'm actually somewhere else in the universe, and I'm just projecting my consciousness over here for 80 years just for a laugh. And I'm just like, I don't feel like this is really all that I'm experiencing. I think there's more.
In parallel.
Yeah, I'm somewhere else.
Many soul extensions across all parallel universes.
Yeah, like Bashar says, there's no such thing as past lives. All lives are happening right now. So what we refer to as a past life is actually a current life, because the past is an illusion. So how can there even be a past life? Because all exists now. So he's like, that life that you think you lived in the past, you're actually living right now in another timeline, in another dimension. Like, so just tap into that. And he says that what we can do is tap into our other lives and learn from their lessons. So in another incarnation somewhere where your soul is projecting another version in a physical incarnation in another timeline, that being is also learning lots of valuable lessons. And if we are still enough and we know that, we can connect to that being's consciousness and learn from their lessons as well. So we can be learning from multiple versions of ourselves at the same time.
I did a interview with Mia Kafkios. I don't know if you see, she's a beautiful divine goddess, and on that podcast she was talking about soul extensions and how, all of that soul sort of thing. Very, very powerful, and it was sort of like the first time I really had it explained to me in such a way that I just got it. Normally, sometimes I've heard them sort of things, and I'm like. But when she explained it in such a way that all of our healing affects their healing, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, it never ends. Yeah. It never ends. It's just we physically incarnate. Let's just say one soul creates 10 physical incarnations, all living out different experiences and timelines. But all of those information has been fed back to one higher self. So it's like he's created lots of different fractions of itself in order to maximize upon the learning experience of the soul. And we are just one fraction of a physical incarnation, but there's loads of you and me everywhere, living out different versions of this life, female, old, young, Chinese, black, Russian, all different timelines. Exciting. I think that works well for me. Once Bashar had explained it that way, it made so much more sense in terms of linear time is an illusion. Yeah,
let's talk about Bashar.
Okay.
Love Bashar. For those who don't know who Bashar is, would you mind explaining it for the audience?
Yeah, Bashar is an amazing man who lives in. There's a man who lives in America, and he channels Bashar.
But Bashar's a higher light being.
Yeah, Bashar. I think Bashar speaks in terms of a collective, so I think he speaks on behalf of a group of people. He says, because he always says we, so he's not just one individuated being. He's part of a social memory construct, which is a collective group of connected beings, and he's just and he comes through. And for those of you who don't watch Bashar and don't know, I highly recommend you check it out. And it's the guy sits down on the chair and he just like meditates and does some breathing, and then he starts like twitching. And then he's like, well, good day to you, sir. It is a pleasure to be here at this space-time location. And he's just like this amazing character. And
Bashar's hilarious.
His sense of humor is outrageous. He takes spirituality and he just blows it away. Like it's like
his knowledge.
You're literally receiving information from an entity from another side of the galaxy. Mm-hmm. He has other side of the galaxy perspective of Earth, and it's so advanced, it's so out there and so radical that you have to believe it, because it can't be conceived by human minds.
No,
unless it's just impossible.
It's like the guy who channels him, when he's talking, people ask questions and he's just like, boom, the answer's there, boom, the answer's there, boom, the answer's there, and and it's so spot on every single time. It's not just once or twice, and you think, like, you could question something.
It's constant.
Is consistent, and it's so profound to watch and listen to, because if you want to grow on your spiritual journey, like, this is the highest consciousness. Like, this is coming from the higher realms, and it's being fed down to us to help us grow and evolve.
Yeah, he's really shed light on spirituality in a new way. I mean, Bentino really helped me, but Bashar is now making me realize off-planet perspectives, which puts everything on planet in perspective. Because when you're having a third party viewing Earth from a very high level of intelligence and wisdom, you're able to go, you know what, this Earth is, you can see where the Earth sits in relation to the rest of the universe and how important it is at this time. Bashar makes it really clear that we came out of a quarantine in 2012, which was the end of and now we're in a period of open contact, where it all depends on the consciousness of the people on the planet, will depend on how quickly we connect with aliens or ETs, because he says that the prime directive, which we have in Star Trek, the prime directive is do not interfere with a race of beings who are not yet able to comprehend alien life. So the reason aliens aren't landing on the planet right now is because most of the population are not ready to receive that level of understanding. No. They're still milling around trying to buy Adidas trainers and like looking at Kim Kardashian and stuff like that, and watching Simon Cowell on television. Like, that's the sad reality that we live in. And without judging them, he says, until everyone starts spreading their consciousness and realizing that you're not alone in the universe, not just in physical terms, but in non-physical terms as well. He says, once people get to a majority point, 45%, 50% of the Earth, he says, then the aliens will know that when they come down, they'll be welcomed by a group of beings who have awakened to that point. But there's no point in them coming down.
I'm here.
We're here. We're ready. Like, I go outside every day to the top of the hill, and I'm like, come on, like, I'm ready. Like, so you once everyone starts opening their minds and their hearts to this reality, then. But I'm really excited about next year, because Bashar has been banging on about 2023 for ages, and he's like, the estimated time for open contact is 2023. And that's what they believe, and that's what the humans believe, and they're all finding their way to get this contact connected with Earth. And Bashar is saying 2023, so I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little bit excited about that, because that's going to change the entire world.
Well, the Earth is being watched by all galaxies, all planets. There's like so many races to watch it from. We're the only race that is ascending in the body.
Right, that's just what makes it so rare.
We're the only planet that's ever done this ascension from 3D to 5D, staying in the body.
Oh, I don't know if it's I don't know if we're the only ones,
but right,
we're currently really rare that it's happening. Like, this transition between animal nature into divine nature is just the human being. The human being takes us from animals into God. So we have animal consciousness and God consciousness, and human beings are inserted in here, and we have the opportunity to either be animals or be gods. And people either live out their life as animals, or they ascend up into divine levels of creation. And this is why the human experience is also very difficult and very challenging, because if you allow that expansion to take place, man, you're going to suffer. You have to go through the shit. You have to go through the pain. You have to purge in order to become a god, in order to become someone who has so much energy and so much passion that it's undisputable. Like, you are becoming God, as we all are, in a beautiful way. So, of
course, we're all part. The Creator made everything. It's all it is, all it will ever be. We are that.
Yeah, we are.
It's very. I can talk it for absolute hours. This is something I really wanted to touch on, is about the creation of us, of what we're doing as the Creator, as the divine God, whatever people want to call it. Our beloved I am presence. Everything is I am. Is that
how radical is this, Joby? That right now, you're like 200 miles away from me or 100 miles away from me. But right now, we have the ability to, A, breathe and be on an Earth. B, we get to have the realization that that's happening. And then we get to just look at the screen and both know that we're completely insignificant in terms of the relation of the size of the universe. We're like a pinprick in the canvas of like of everything. We don't even know how the big universe is. It's so incomprehensible to us.
Of course, you can't.
We only know the known universe,
Mm.
but even outside of that, it's unknown. It could be the known universe could be 0.5% of the entirety of the universe. So it's incomprehensible. So then we're just left on this tiny little space dot, trying to figure out a way of helping as many people as we can. And it seems like we're doing good work and we're sharing the love and an energy. And that is what's happening. But it's like the earth is a little tiny flower that's opening up its little petals. And we're all trying to push for utopia and push for love.
Of course, and we are here as walking masters. That's what we're here to be.
Yeah.
And we're doing the sacred work of elevating ourselves to help elevate others.
Yeah.
And
well, there is no self in others.
No, but if you
so you're like, we're just elevating ourselves in order to help ourselves.
Of course, I get that, but just as an easy, simple way of explaining it, our other parts of us,
other versions of ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah, because by awakening, this is why in our society we're told that being selfish is bad. Like, oh, this guy's selfish, and it's always done in a negative connotation. But being selfish is the prime directive of your soul. Self-ish, to be focused on the self, primary, not secondary. So you are your priority, and as you awaken, as you develop that stuff within yourself, you naturally overspill around everyone you hang around with and meet and talk to. And so once you make yourself, your true higher self, the priority, you naturally wake everyone up just as the ramifications of your awakening. You don't need to try and help anyone. You just are helping people by being alive.
Smiling and just be.
And just be. Be here now.
It's that God thing, that the source energy, everything that we are creating from, everything we're doing is to send information back up to source.
Yeah.
We are here experiencing consciousness as God.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's all it is. And we're like the end of a vacuum cleaner, absorbing experiences and filing it back up to the top, which is the bag of the vacuum cleaner, who's just gathering experiences. And it's just the whole universe and everything that's created within it is just so God can know itself more and more and more, can discover more and more of itself deeper and deeper, as it is a never-ending expanding knowingness of knowledge and experience. So whether you're a homeless man or you're a rich man or you're a murderer or you're not a murderer, all of those experiences are 100% valid in God's reality, because God wants to know what it's like to murder someone, and God also wants to know what it's like to be murdered by someone. It sounds extreme to use those examples, but
it's very extreme.
It's very extreme, but still, from a divine perspective, God's not judging any of these actions because He doesn't have the facility of judgment like humans.
No, it's free law. We give everyone law of free will. Everything's free will.
Yeah, we're just free to act according. Because if He didn't create free will, or God didn't create free will, then He'd still be in control of it. And that wouldn't be a true expression of what He was. So He had to relinquish control and just allow everything in the universe to find its own way. That way He could truly know that it was authentic.
I love it.
And we are that. Woohoo!
On that note, we can't go any higher than consciousness. So Chris, my friend, it's been an absolutely pleasure speaking to you.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely love talking to you. And I know we could go on for hours and hours and hours.
Sure.
But let's do it again. Let's do another round very soon. So all of you watching those, I will link you to Chris's TikTok and social media. And Chris, just to finish off, one tip for life.
Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. It's a joke. It's a cosmic joke. It really is a cosmic joke, and it's meant to be, like Alan Watts says, it's meant to be played. You don't work a piano, you play it. And life is a dance. You're meant to dance through life. You're meant to be enjoying this experience. It's meant to be a fun experience, to be honest. But everyone's free to choose whatever they want. But don't take it too seriously. That would be my advice to everyone.
I like that. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Joby from Breathe to Heal. Beautiful, beautiful podcast speaking about consciousness, spirituality. Chris, my divine brother, I love you with all my heart. I can't wait to see you very soon.
Yeah, man. Lots of love to you. Thanks for having me on it.
No worries, everyone. See you soon. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Lots of love and respect. Aho.
Bye, everyone.